It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a weekly podcast where we talk about everything that's great. Like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh, yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Mike.
And this week, Sony is turning all of its video games into movies.
They lost a whole franchise, fell off the map like last week, so they got to do something.
Yeah, they gave up on Spider-Man villains, decided to go to the video games. And you know what? Last of Us worked out, right? I didn't watch Uncharted, but apparently it made some money. But we'll talk about that early on in the show here. We're looking forward to a Superman Super Bowl. We got some stuff of that. I did not know this, but Warner Brothers sponsors the Puppy Bowl and has done so for like 21 years or so.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I did not know that. So we'll talk about that. And that made me actually realize I need to start planning out my Super Bowl snack menu, right? We gotta jump the gun on that. Marvel rumors Hulk out, pun intended, and more. So got several Hulk things to talk about for the first time in a very, very long time.
Yeah, well, if you're a regular listener of the podcast and you tuned in last week, we talked at the top of the show about Chris's local weather phenomena happening. We were keeping an up-to-date look at it literally through the podcast. And things have evolved here, and the whole country is out of whack. I think Chris got hit with more snow and weather, a band that I believe stretched down into Texas as well. So things keeping interesting out there still for you.
Well,
and then
and then on the opposite end of the spectrum, we're over here, expecting power lines, snow, cold, everything this. Mike, everything's on fire around you. Is literally what that mean, or like you're just sitting there and everything's on fire and you're like everything's fine around. Yeah,
this is the most fire I've ever experienced out here in Los Angeles. My family, we are here over in Burbank, California, and we have been glued to this app called the Watch Duty app, which is actually really, really cool. If fires or something that are prevalent in your area, this app is a nonprofit, and it's just really smart, and it just does a really good job distilling map information to you with fire information. So we've been glued to it, keeping track of the evacuation zones, the warnings, the mandatory evacuations, the containment. I stumbled across an infrared NASA map that's free because it's a government-run service, and it shows you like the infrared information layers in an area. So we've been tracking the fire that way as well. Luckily here in Burbank, even though we are definitely at risk for catching on fire, just like any other place in the valley, we have this giant tinderbox right next to us called the Burbank Hillside that has caught on fire before. We have been really lucky so far, knock on wood. But yeah, west of us, east of us, two gigantic fires that are over 10,000 acres burned. I'm sure people are somewhat aware of it already. It's a gigantic fire in one of the most metropolitan areas on the planet. Well, so it's been all over the news. Yeah. But luckily we've been okay. The worst we had to contend with was some power outages in the area at the beginning of the week, and then obviously really poor air quality. But it's all
that's LA like anyway. Isn't that normally LA rolling blackouts and bad air quality?
But everything's kind of turned around a little bit this morning, which has been kind of nice. We usually don't watch a whole lot of local news, which ironically I think I brought up last week on the podcast talking about your weather situation. But we've been keeping up with it this week. Every morning we wake up, turn it on, see what the demeanor is of the news anchors, and everyone's a little bit more chipper today. The aerial footage of the fires are looking way better. There's actually containment percentages on them now, which for days they've been 0% contained. So things are looking up. There is some more winds due in the area over the next couple days, but they're much, much slower gusts than what we had last week. So hopefully by this time next week on the podcast, we might have even seen a little bit of rain out here. There's a little bit in the forecast chance for it. So this podcast coming along just in time. So between the last one we had and this one we had, it's been nothing but chaos, but things are calming down now, which is good.
Well, again, like I said, our everyone, our thoughts are with you guys, Mike, out there. Be safe. I know you guys will be. But I would say, it has been prevalent because it is Los Angeles, and a lot of celebrities or influencers, I say, out there, and they've all, obviously been victims of the fire through some of those losing their properties and houses and stuff like that. So it's interesting how much more it's got coverage because of the people involved who have those social outreaches, right? Kind of along the way.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's if you're unfamiliar with the area, the two fires that are burning, the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire, are kind of like two different classes of Angelinos that have kind of been victims. Like the Palisades fire is very much like Beverly Hills by the beach. You see just literally a list, like a very long list of celebrities have been published that have like lost their homes, like anywhere from like smaller actors you haven't heard from in a while to like the biggest actors that you've ever seen working have either evacuated or lost their houses. And then over at the Eaton fire, which is kind of the Pasadena, Altadena area, you just have like normal folk that just like, these are normal houses that have been around for, a couple generations now that have just been devastated. So I think some people have kind of conflated it, and some of the more cynical people out there in the world are just like, screw these celebrities that have lost their houses. Like, well, you're kind of confusing two different like historic fires that are going on in different parts of the city.
And a lot of, again, I'm going to use the example of Billy Crystal, right? He lost his home in the fire. He's had that home since like the 85 or something like that too. It's not like he's like living in a mansion. Like, think of all the work and stuff he's gathered from all his movies and projects over the years in that home and lost in a fire. Like, so I'm like, I get like he may be an actor, maybe a celebrity, but like at the same time, I'm like, he isn't like buying a mansion and just burning his big mansion down at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. So, luckily, I mean, memorabilia is not something that's on the top level of my mind, but it's not like I haven't been thinking about it. And Mark Hamill lives up in the Malibu area, and he is a prolific collector. He has apparently a gigantic like movie prop. I think he's kind of like a Disney aficionado and has a lot of memorabilia from like parks and stuff like that. Apparently, I think his house did survive, and who knows, he's probably a guy that has a lot of his collection maybe in a warehouse somewhere too. So it's happy to hear some of those relics seem like that they're still around. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. And despite all of the natural disasters surrounding us, it hasn't stopped us from focusing on our main priorities, Mike, and that is snacking. And you were the victim of a shipping delay, a tragic shipping delay, maybe 2 days.
Yes, devastating. I teased this last week on the show, didn't I? I think
last week or 2 weeks. Yeah, we've talked about Mike's. We've talked about what you're about to mention. So
yes, my package finally came in. I've purchased my very first Sideshow collectible. It's not a statue of Iron Man. It's not a 18 foot tall, scale model of the Hulk. It is a Coca-Cola vending machine. Yeah. I don't know the exact scale of it, but it's 12 inches tall, and it looks exactly like the vending machines from back in the day. It has a real working slot for tiny, tiny, itty-bitty quarters. This vending machine literally came with a pair of tweezers, so you could pick up the quarters and put them in the slot.
Keep those away from your daughter.
Yes, exactly. And after you put 2 quarters in, all of the lights light up along the side of the vending machine, and you can press it, and an actual can, well, at least it's the figure of a can, comes down the slot into the little thing. And it even sounds like a vending machine. I'm not fully convinced that there's not a little speaker in there making a sound, but things are chunking and thudding as the can comes down, and it's amazing. It glows just like a real vending machine would. So I have it on my desk, so at night when all the lights are off, you can like just see this amazing thing glowing. And most importantly, you open it up and it's a real working mini fridge. You can fit exactly 2 cans inside of it. And I also appreciate there's like a dividing shelf that you can pull out if you wanted to put like a taller can in there or something, like a big old like Liquid Death or Arizona Iced Tea. You could fit one of those in there. And it has like a switch on the back where if you want to turn the cooling function on, you can turn it on, or if you just want the fun vending machine portions of it working. The coolest thing about this, though, is I always forget how big it is. Like it's like a few inches bigger than I remember it every time I walk past it. So I get kind of like giddy. I'm like, oh, this is so cool.
It is 1/6, by the way. I pulled up the site. It is 1/6
gotcha.
size.
So my plan is I kind of want to customize it and adorn it a little bit, because it does look like a real world vending machine, even to like these little kind of decals that they have around like the coin slot and stuff like that. So I kind of want to I don't necessarily want to weather it, but I kind of want to put maybe some kind of like random like little stickers on it, because you see vending machines in the wild, people slap stickers on it. I'd love to maybe find some sort of like 90s or 80s like Coca-Cola limited time promotion and like turn it into a decal and slap it on there. I was hoping the little Coca-Cola buttons, the little labels for each type of can would be like kind of removable, but once I kind of unwrapped it and realized how small those things are, that's not really possible. But it's not going to stop me from printing my own little custom stickers of putting like a Cherry Coke label on there, a Diet Coke one for sure, and some other cans along the way. But it's just really cool. This is like the first, I think, kind of silly purchase I've made for myself in a really, really long time. It's just really, really cool. And I told everyone I'd talk about it on the show this week. So if you're curious what it looks like, just go to like sideshowcollectibles.com or whatever. And I'm sure there's only one result pops up when you type in vending machine.
I typed in Coke and it came up. It was immediately the first one. So that worked out for me. But also, we've also gone out to stores this week and bought real snacks that we could really eat rather than little vending machines. And the first thing, we were talking about, I'm just going to go ahead and drop the Red Bulls because I'm drinking one right now. I have the pink edition, which is supposed to come out in March. It's wild berry. Mike, you had it yesterday. I've had it today. And then on the flip side, they have a new zero version, Red Bull Zero, that's made with monk fruit. And I had mine yesterday, and you had yours today. So we're literally just drinking so many Red Bulls, Mike. So much caffeine is powering the show at this time.
Yeah, we are on the hunt for this blackberry Dr. Pepper. You told me you actually found signs in your local stores that are limiting people the amount that they could buy. I haven't even seen UPC codes anywhere in our aisles. I'm always looking on the end caps as well, because sometimes new stuff gets relegated to kind of more promo areas, but I haven't seen it yet. But to be fair, the official release date for all of this stuff is like February. But that's why snack hunting is so fun, right? Because like when a video game or even like a movie gets a release date, you are for sure not going to be able to play it until that release date. If there's some sort of promo, maybe you'll get access to it early or something like that. But when it comes to like snacks, it's hilarious because it's like, it's just whenever the shipment is scheduled. It's whenever it comes in. If it shows up a month early, nobody cares because that's not really a big deal.
Get it on the shelf, it will sell. Like that's what they're worried about. And so the Dr. Pepper Blackberry was at the Kroger. It was empty and said limited 10 per person. I was like, all right, fine, whatever. But my wife went to Target this morning and was able to come back with the new Liquid Death flavors, which include Dr. Death, which is Dr. Pepper, a Coke, and a root beer. And then also, I actually had one this morning, a Cherry Obituary, which is sparkling cherry flavored. But they had a big can from gas station. They have all these new ones are the 12-ounce cans, which are interesting. That they Liquid Death has gone down to regular size cans for some of these. So I'm excited to give those a go as well. And for those who think it's Christmas candy's out, Easter candy's in, Mike. So if you're a fan of Easter candies and Valentine's Day candies, guess what? You can go stock up right now to your heart's content. Anything you want. You want strawberry flavored things because it's red? You got it, Mike. You got it. I got the strawberry filled Hershey Kisses because I was like, I don't think they're new, but I wanted to try them. They're all right.
Any flavor that's like relatively like red or pink is on the shelves right now for this time of year.
Pastels to the heart, to your heart's desire, and then also the Reese's Big Cup with spring sprinkles. So it's essentially sugar sprinkles inside of a Reese's cup. I don't like Reese's cups, Mike. I know you probably know this because I don't like chocolate and I don't like peanut butter. But I will always eat the newest flavor because I want to see what it's like. Maybe it'll change.
Such a masochist.
Yeah, completionist, really, if we could. But yeah, so if you guys see any snacks or know anything coming out, let us know. I know, again, Red Bull is always fun because they're seasonal. I'm excited to see what summer brings for some of the other stuff too. But let's jump into this. Big thing this week, Mike. CES. I don't know if we didn't talk about it on the show much last week, but CES was this week, and a lot of it I've heard it was more of a shoppable experience than like a theory experience. So like, hey, this stuff is coming out later this year, or very soon, rather than like, hey, we're thinking about making it.
Yeah, the only like product that I saw that I was like, oh, I'd really like to have this one specific thing is, I think it's Belkin. It's either Belkin or Anchor, but I want to say it was Belkin. It's this extendable MagSafe battery for the back of your iPhone, but it has a camera grip on it. So it's essentially like a camera grip, and it has like a shutter button on it and everything, but it's a rechargeable extendable battery for your phone. So it's kind of cool because even if you don't want to use it to like really be like a hardcore like photographer with it, the shape of it is really useful for like if you want to use it as like a kickstand. Either way you want to hold your phone. So I think that's supposed to be out at some point this summer, but I just thought it was really, really cool.
So yeah, they're about 2 years late to that. I have something called the Snap Grip that I backed on Kickstarter 2 years ago that does the same thing. Adds a little shutter button and the MagSafe stuff. But that is cool. I saw a lot of it was more articles on like retro companies like throwing their logos on like just a regular manufacturer like Kodak and Radio Shack and Memorex making a scooter. When I think of Memorex, Mike, I think of memory cards, right? Like SD cards and stuff like that, not electric scooters. So, but anyway, the whole point of this is Sony's there. When I went to CS several years ago, Sony was there. They had the PSVR 2. But they came not with any console stuff, but with movie information and series information. And the first one we're going to talk about is Horizon Zero Dawn. Sony has officially announced a movie based on this game franchise, which is 3 games in, 2 regular VR and a Lego game as well. So they have several games in this world of Horizon Zero Dawn. There's no other release date or details for this. They just said, we're making a movie for this. And I was like, boy, this sounds like deja vu, Mike. So I went back and looked. Netflix is making a series based on this game as well. So the only thing is at CES they said yes, we are doing both. There is going to be a Horizon Zero Dawn movie, and the series is still in the works, and they are writing on it right now. So this seems like to me, for people who may not be familiar with this franchise, Mike, I bet you could pick out the character, but you couldn't tell me the story of Horizon Zero Dawn.
I attempted to play the game a few years ago. I can't tell you for certain, but when I bought it, or maybe I had like a PSN like subscription thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll just dive into it. It was cool. I liked the concept of it, but I quickly found out that like, oh, this game is going to be kind of consuming.
Yeah.
This isn't just going to be like a casual playthrough. This is like a whole world and story. It's very compelling. I don't have time for this. And I was already like in the tutorial levels, and I was like, oh, there's a lot of mechanics here that I need to learn. There's like, I had like this robotic piece on my face that was like scanning different like mechanical life forms. Like, this is too much right now. I gotta back away from this. But I'm surprised it's been so captivating and it's been so popular because it's very high concept.
Yeah, it's very unique. I think the visuals of the mechanical dinosaurs and wildlife are really iconic. They've come forward and done a lot of good things with that designs. So, but they're just going full force in Horizon Zero Dawn. If you liked it, hopefully this is good news for you. If you were kind of on the fence, you might just be beat to death with Horizon Zero Dawn properties kind of going forward. It sounds like, but yeah, movie in the works. When we get more details, we'll fill you guys in. And then also with the series from Netflix. On the flip side of that, a game that is less a high concept and more just shooting things, Helldivers, which I love Helldivers too. I've been playing it this year on my PC. Sony has also announced a movie based on that video game. in the works. So Helldivers 1 came out several years ago, a little small niche community. Helldivers 2 launched 2024. Took everything by storm, won some game awards. Really, really fun stuff. It's interesting. It's kind of essentially, a lot of people said, what's that, Starship Troopers a little bit, but there's not a lot of story. You just go in. There's an overarching person who, quote unquote, game master who changes like the planets and who's attacking the planets. You go there, liberate them as a war thing, and you go back to your ship. Not a campaign game, Mike. This is very much only multiplayer. So I'm interested to see maybe if this is like a prequel, like how did we get to this point in the game kind of movie. Because you're just a nameless character in the game, right? You're just yourself. So very interesting. They're just, because Sony does not own Helldivers, they just help publish it. Though the studio is an independent studio, but Sony published the games specifically on PlayStation and PC. So this is going to be, on the flip side, another movie coming out of Sony. And I guess Columbia Pictures. Sorry, it's Columbia Pictures. Moving on, the third thing that was announced at this was a Ghost of Tsushima Legends anime based on the video games that are out, and this one actually has a 2027 release date announced, and it will be directed by Takanobu Mizuno, who's known for Star Wars Visions, The Duel, and other properties. And the animation will be done by KAMIKAZE. I butcher these names. DOUGA, who did Batman Ninja. So this one sounds like it's in the works, and they have a release date, and will be here, here in 2 years. And you played the games, Mike. So is this get you excited on the?
There's already been a feature film in the works, like live action, that was announced. And we talked about it on the show a little while ago. I don't know where that is in the production line, but it's kind of weird. If you were to tell me, if you would told teenage Mike back in the day that basically every like franchise and video game that you love would get adapted and turned into an anime, I would be like, you got to be kidding me. That's amazing. Anime is, like, to me back then was everything. So the fact that like mainstream stuff would get an anime version would have like blown my mind. But now it's so kind of par for the course. I don't even get excited about it anymore. Like they turned Blade Runner into an anime, which is crazy. And I heard really good things about it, but it doesn't excite me anymore because it just kind of seems more of like, it always seems like a strategy to me. It doesn't seem like, oh, this will be a fun creative choice. It more seems just like, oh, we have a streamer that's interested in buying content. They're looking to buy anime. What IP can we send off to a foreign anime studio to turn into something? It's probably not going to break the cultural zeitgeist in any way, but people are just looking for stuff. Let's turn Ghost of Tsushima into anime. I'm not saying that's exactly what's happening.
That's a big stretch here because like Ghost of Tsushima,
that's what goes on. Yeah. But that's what goes on in my head because like we never get any follow up on any of these animes that we've ever taled about on the show over the last couple of years.
We do.
Like,
I don't put them in the notes because we don't watch them. I guess. We have the follows. I just don't put them in here.
Like my social media algorithms are perfectly adept to pulling this information in for me because like I am like the perfect audience to see this kind of stuff, and I never see anybody talking about it. Nobody's like, oh my god, you gotta go watch the Dead Space anime or whatever, something like nobody cares.
Well, I think this is unique because Ghost of Tsushima is a Japanese property based in Japan. It is also from Sony, which is a Japanese company. Like, this is a better situation than you're like, oh, there's an IP to make an anime. Like, this is where it comes from and where it originates from. So I will give them credit. Like, this is probably going to be... This isn't like, oh, we just picked the Terminator anime, right? Terminator has no affiliation with Japan at all. So why would they do that?
That's the crazy thing. I don't even remember a Terminator anime being announced, but I 100% believe you. Like, you could pick anything out. You could pick any IP out there popular enough, tell me it was turned into an anime, and I will just believe you. Because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure like that's on like Prime or Netflix somewhere. Now, that being said, I'm just talking about strategic publishing and releasing. I'm not saying it wouldn't be good. Like, I'm sure a lot of this anime stuff is good and fun storytelling, and it's probably spectacle, and they've done some really cool, like, action sequences in there. But, like, there's just so much stuff out there. Like, I've just never heard of any of it breaking through the zeitgeist, except that example that I brought up of Blade Runner, because I think that came out, like, I think that released like just like a couple months before the movie came out, so it was almost kind of like, oh, this is like a teaser for what you might be seeing in this revived kind of like iconic sci-fi world. But then that's basically been the only thing that I've kind of seen pop off.
The Terminator one I've heard is good, and I think it's getting a second season as well. But Netflix did put out a bunch last year that, obviously you're not watching them, so I'm not watching them. I just put them in here. God of War is also getting an update for the TV series, the live action God of War coming. That the writing, they are working on the writing, so they, rather than just announcing it and saying we have nothing else, they are working on the writing. And this one is going to Prime Video for people who are interested in the God of War franchise. I'm interested in the God of War. I didn't play the first 3. I've only played the more recent 2, but knowing, the backstory of the character, it does play into the recent 2. This should be pretty fun, hopefully, if they can keep it action packed, because the only thing it's a hack and slash game, right? If without the action, story, you can have story, but like, you need the action. You need him taking down god-sized people in this show as well. And then the last video game news we had out of CES is that an Assassin's Creed, this isn't even news, this is rumored, Assassin's Creed is rumored for Netflix. So there's a bunch of Assassin's Creed, they've had a lot of games. They put one out like one every year, every 2 years. They had the movie with Michael Fassbender that was supposed to tie into the actual games as well. Didn't really go anywhere. I think Assassin's Creed's fine, but I don't know if it needs more external content, if that makes sense. Like, yeah,
I don't know if is Assassin's Creed, that's Ubisoft, right?
Yeah, Ubisoft, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that's not connected to Sony. I was just going to kind of reflect just overall that I would say this is just as like a good pivot for Sony in general with those first couple announcements that we talked about, because they did just totally messed up their Spider-Man IP. I mean, obviously they still have it. There's no there's no recourse for them. They're not going to jail. Their punishment is just less box office return, and then there's some creative turnover at the studio, which just happened recently. So hopefully that's good. But it makes sense of just like, okay, we've beat this Spider-Man IP to death. Nobody cares about it anymore, and we're just a laughing stock. Hey, we have all of this amazing, beloved IP on the video game side of things. Basically, when people think about Sony, they already think about the PlayStation in general. Like, nobody really thinks about Sony Pictures, as a brand. They'll turn on a movie and they see the logo and they go, oh, I forgot that they make movies and video games too. So I think this is a good pivot for them and a good time. The iron's hot to strike, Oh,
I disagree entirely. I think this is bad decision on their behalf, because what they did with Spider-Man, they see the success they have with Last of Us. They see the success they had, I guess mild success with the Nathan Drake Uncharted movie, right? I feel like they're just going to double down and not look at quality. They don't look at quality, they look at quantity. Like the Marvel movies, the Spider-Man properties, we had 3 this year, right? 3 below average, some awful movies that were this year, and more is not necessarily better at the end of the day. I think Sony, they're struggling. They're not a good studio. They're not putting out anything, I can tell you. Like you said, you don't know them as a brand. You don't get excited when Sony Pictures or Columbia Pictures, I guess, says we're putting out a movie. And I think if they're just diving into all these, we're doing Horizon Zero Dawn, we're doing Helldivers. No one's announced to be in, like, you get excited about having a script and someone involved. The people who make the game, maybe they need to be announced involved, because I think it's what Neil Druckmann was in charge of the TV series for Last of Us, right? Well, they didn't announce the Horizon Zero Dawn people are involved. They didn't announce the Helldivers people are involved. So I'm on the other side. I'm like, they're just throwing more at the wall and saying, yeah, more. We did it once. People will watch anything video game related, obviously. Not necessarily that the quality is going to be there behind it on the other side. So we will see as we come into the next several years of possibly no announcements even on this. Like Ghost of Tsushima, the movie. I think the script is done. Who was that? Was that the John Wick guy? Wasn't it? As well,
possibly. That sounds like something we would have talked about.
Zaleski, yeah. So I mean, I just think, you know, I hope for the best, but I'm not optimistic based on their 2024 outings, what they did to us. But moving on, we're going to talk about Peacock real fast, the streaming service that somehow still has the same horrible name. I don't know how they do it. But Jurassic Park World and Fast and Furious series are rumored to be in the works for the streamer. So it sounds like they're looking to put some extra original content on there.
These are not conjoined, right? This isn't like Men in Black.
Correct. Yeah,
because that's how I read it when I was looking at the notes earlier. I was like, holy crap, they're going to put dinosaurs in the Fast and Furious.
Yeah, so no, it's Jurassic Park and World, like a series. They've already done the animated stuff on Netflix, which I've heard is good. And then Fast and Furious, I don't think has had anything. But they're probably trying to do... Hopefully Fast and Furious will go back to maybe like the street racing era kind of thing and do like a street racing show. Get back to its roots, if you will, because I don't even know. 11's not coming out this year. Vin Diesel and The Rock are always fighting, so we'll see if anything actually comes to the theater for that. But by the time they get done with that, you know, they'd already could have a season or two for car racing. This doesn't make me want to subscribe to Peacock, Mike, by any means, by hearing this stuff.
I mean, maybe they saw some success with Twisted Metal, and they're like, our viewers want more cars.
Another Sony
stuff
property
in there as possible.
Another Sony property, a game that was turned to there. It could be Jurassic Park World. I don't know how they're going to do dinosaurs on a series budget, Mike, and be like, yeah, we're going to keep doing this.
You know what I want? Totally unrelated, but we're talking about video games and dinosaurs. I want a dinosaur kart racing game where either I am a little dinosaur driving around in a car, or I'm a person like driving a Jurassic Park Jeep on a race course, and then the obstacles are dinosaurs. Like a giant dinosaur stepping out, like trying to eat me.
Yeah,
I think that'd be hilarious.
I'm going to drop two things on you. One, there was a show / video game called Cadillacs and Dinosaurs from 1990s. I don't know if you knew about this.
No.
Yeah, so it's on ChrisFlix if you ever want to watch it. It's one season. So they drove like these convertible cars back in dinosaur times, and you had to like shoot the dinosaurs in the game. And then the other one is the Jurassic Park arcade game from 2014, which is really fun, where you're like on rails in cars, running from dinosaurs, trying to capture Triceratops. It's really fun. So those things, not necessarily a kart racer like Mario Kart, but you know, maybe before you know, they'll get in maybe Peacock will go into video games and Sony will go into movies, and never shall the two meet. Let's get into some superhero news. Batman, the Brave and the Bold, moving through. Andy Muschietti, who was announced as a director right before I think The Flash came out, says that his Batman, this Batman in the DCU, maybe not his Batman, will not be Robert Pattinson, despite all the rumors trying to get them to merge together. And I don't know if you finished Creature Commandos this week, Mike, or not. And this is
did.
Okay, this is not a spoiler, but in there he does mention Dr. Phosphorus mentions being captured by Batman 15 years ago, and we all saw the Batman thing we talked about last week. Batman was not a first-year Batman, right, in that little 1 second we saw. So assuming that Robert Pattinson, you know, by the time the second one comes out, it may be 20 years, but I don't think the two will ever meet. I think Matt Reeves' Batman, Robert Pattinson, will be different until they cast somebody in the DCU proper.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that timeline makes sense for at least kind of what it seems like Safran and Gunn are planning, right, for Batman storylines. You know, multiple Robins exist in this universe.
He's got a kid.
They're planning on making movies about it. Yeah, he's got a kid, so he's got to be older. I mean, that was one of the fun, exciting things that made us anticipate these the Snyder movies, was that, we have this grizzled Batman that's already been out there in the world, you know, no origin story. That's great. Let's get it. But obviously that the execution wasn't exactly how we wanted it to be. So that idea was never at fault. So
we never went to
everybody knows the origin of Batman.
Well, we never got a standalone Batman movie, right? He was always a part of the Superman movies, or he was part of the Justice League, and we never got to see that history of him. I don't even know if we got to see any of his like rogues gallery, did we? Like other than Jared Leto's Joker. So I mean, obviously, yeah, they didn't touch on it. So I think this would be interesting. They've got a plan. They can bring the Batman that's in the comics now into that a little bit. But yeah, so no worries about Robert Pattinson going over there. Superman. James Gunn has confirmed that they will show new Superman footage at the Puppy Bowl this year, which is brought to us by Warner Brothers, which I teased at the top of the show. I think it's the 21st Puppy Bowl. And I'm pretty sure that they said it's a 30-second teaser. And I'm not sure if they're going to give us an in-game trailer or not, Mike. Since Warner Brothers owns that, they might use their own property to promote their own material there at the beginning.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is this more of a confirmation that we won't be getting a proper Super Bowl trailer next month if they're announcing something happening at the Puppy Bowl?
I think it's going to be one of those. They might do a 30-second teaser during the Puppy Bowl, and go watch the full trailer online, and then maybe replay that during the actual game.
No, maybe. I mean, that is always a strategy at the Super Bowl where it's just like, well, let's not blow our entire marketing budget on one trailer. There's been some studios that just straight up just drop what they call a big game trailer, even though it's never aired anywhere at all. They're just trying to be part of those roundup articles that get made, even though it never touched the broadcast in any shape or form. But I think they would be missing out if they didn't try to engage that audience.
I like the idea of the Puppy Bowl. It's usually something we try to put on, but I can't ever say I've ever watched it and remember a single thing from it. So even if it was there, it's still going to be something I'm going to have to search later to find, and I think they should get the main audience where everybody will be watching the Super Bowl. Not everybody's going to be watching a Puppy Bowl, right?
Yeah. Also, I think even the people that say like, "Oh, I hate the Super Bowl, I hate sports, I'm going to watch the Puppy Bowl," I can't imagine you can find many people that watch the Puppy Bowl, like you said, attentively for any length of time. Yeah. I think it's a fun gag to turn on every once in a while. Be like, oh, those are some fun puppies. At best, people are just putting it on in the background and just scrolling on their phone.
Yeah. Kids maybe at most, but that's about it. Now, they did say that at the Puppy Bowl this year, they will have a crypto super play award to one pup during the game. So they are doing some Superman crossover with Crypto, the super dog. So that's a little fun thing. But it did get me hyped to think, oh yeah, Super Bowl coming up. We're going to be starting to hear some of this stuff. I believe we didn't get punked, but Will Smith put out a very, very ill-timed tease that he's probably doing a Matrix commercial or Matrix-themed commercial during the Super Bowl because whether people know this or not, he was actually one of the first people asked to play Neo in the original Matrix and turned it down.
When you sent me that tease, and I never even thought that it could have been a tease for a commercial. I always forget that sometimes they reinvigorate or reignite franchises for commercials, like the Ferris Bueller sequel, which was a commercial, I think maybe for a credit card or something.
Right. Yeah. Or they'll bring back expired or not expired, but like shows into the run or something like that. So so excited to kind of see what they're bringing to the table this year. Again, I think we're gonna get some Marvel spots. Fantastic Four has to be the first trailer, Mike. Right? That's got to be the first big one.
Oh, I'd love that.
I think that'll be huge. And Avatar 2. Those are the two I'm putting money down on right now. Very, very early in the show.
Just finished rewatching Way of Water.
Yeah,
and I still love it. So I would love to see some aliens.
Yeah, so some blue aliens on a planet far away. Moving into Star Wars briefly here, we are on the last episode of Skeleton Crew this week. The season series, whatever it will be, will wrap up this week. But Ahsoka Season 2 is moving forward, and we have some casting announcements with actor Rory McCann, who played, people know him as the Hound in Game of Thrones, will replace the late Ray Stevenson, as Baylan Skoll in Season 2. And the actors were good friends prior to Ray Stevenson's passing. So it sounds like it's more of a good faith kind of recasting rather than
That's that's nice. I'm glad to hear that there's kind of that connection between the two. It feels a little bit more symbolic of a casting in a way. I mean,
Yeah.
that character Balin was the only thing that I really liked about the show overall. I just did not dig Ahsoka, but his character was really cool because out of all of the stoic characters on the show, because somehow they made the decision that every single character on the show should be stoic, he was the only one that actually should be stoic, so it actually worked for him. And I liked it.
Well, that he's got an iconic look. He was very like level-headed. He had the cool lights, like when he ignited his lightsaber to blow up the little orb thing. Like that scene sticks out in my mind, right? Like he had some of the coolest stuff, and then at the end, he's looking for the Force Trinity, I guess the Force family there. So the other rumor I had was like Ewan McGregor is supposed to be coming back for this, probably doing a flashback to the Clone Wars era again. So I would love to see live action Ewan McGregor from like the Clone Wars TV show, like in that armor and look. So we'll see if we kind of get to that point or not. So they're kind of moving in this. I expect filming's probably going to be starting soon if they're casting like this. So we'll keep you guys posted. And then have you watched Skeleton Crew? Are you up to date on that or no as well? I couldn't remember.
I think I am 1 and or 2 episodes behind. So I've seen a decent chunk of it, but not totally caught up.
We've been watching them in pairs because they seem to pair episodes together pretty well. So, but we did watch the extra one yesterday to get ready for the one out.
The last episode I saw was the one that had the big stop motion creature in it because it was the Phil Tippett animated creature.
Tetanus
that
is
I
what they call
check
them.
out.
They nicknamed him Tetanus behind the scenes because of all the sharp, jagged points on him that people kept poking themselves with.
It was cool. I liked it. This was kind of like the nice thing about when you kind of get these directors that have pull doing these shows of just like, I made the Spider-Man trilogy. You are going to let me hire Phil Tippett to work on this stop-motion creature for months, and I don't care what you say.
And they're like, yeah, we could do it in CGI, but it wouldn't have been the same, right? It felt... It reminds me of or Hoth, a lot of the creatures in Hoth, especially like the worm that they're trapped in, the Millennium Falcon flies out of. Like, it is stop-motion, but it's like so smooth, it felt like Star Wars, so... excited to see kind of how this show turns out, see if there's... What the inevitable twist is, Mike, because I feel like there's one coming. Moving into the Marvel news, we got a lot of Marvel rumors today, and the first one is going to be World War Hulks. The rumor, a scooper has confirmed that the movie is in development at Marvel Studios. This is like the 10th time we've talked about this possibility over the past several years. It seems to come up, so I think maybe they went through some old papers and found some stuff. I don't know. Now, this did give me an idea as I was typing this out. This is off me. I didn't see this anywhere else, but this could tie into this upcoming teased Cosmic Saga with like a Planet Hulk scenario, Mike. Because I know we kind of had that in Thor Ragnarok where he was sent to fight, but like in Planet Hulk proper, the Hulk was sent off into space by the Illuminati, or it could be the government in this situation, for the safety of the Earth. We are getting more Hulks teased in Captain America: Brave New World, so obviously the number of Hulks increasing could become a problem for global security. And then also, with Thunderbolts knowing the Sentry's coming, the Sentry was a huge component of how World War Hulk ended because he was the only person strong enough to fend him off. Now, I'm not saying... I don't know if the MCU version will be the same. I don't know if they'll ever have that. But the timing of all these little Hulk appearances, Sentry, it kind of leads into this World War Hulk kind of mentality a little bit, Mike. Like, I'm like, I can see some of the lines.
And we've heard, rumors that possibly the Universal's stranglehold over the distribution of Hulk movies might have been bought out or ended, expired. They might have been wheeled and dealed. We don't really know exactly, but I think we talked about that at some point in the last year or so. So I would be just excited to hear it officially announced, from Kevin Feige himself, because that would be confirmation that like, oh yeah, Hulk movies are now on the table, because, we were looking over promo material for Captain America: Brave New World last week, and it's just like, oh yeah, this is just a Hulk movie with Captain America in it. Like, it has the Red Hulk, it has his like main villain in it. So, yeah, I think we're due for some good Hulk stuff, and I would really like to see Bruce Banner like chew on some good story, right? He's always like the sidekick in every movie he's in, And he's always he always talk about these big character growth and development that he's gone through between movies. He's just like, hey, between the last movie you watched, I did a lot of personal work on myself, but we never get to see it on screen. So it would be nice to maybe see it for once.
Yeah, right. We got Smart Hulk. We got him being able to come back to normal, regular. But it's like we need. I missed the first Avengers Hulk when Mark Ruffalo first took over, and he was scared of the Hulk. He was scared of the other side. Like there was that fear of a feral animal that couldn't hardly be stopped by anybody. Like even Thor had to fight him. Like where is that at? I want to bring that back around. Making the Hulk a friendly and ally is cool, and they've done that in the comics back and forth. But they've also gone back to like the Immortal Hulk, where obviously it's a psyche thing, and like there's even more dangerous Hulks, quote unquote Hulks, like the Gray Hulk, right? We've seen Gray Hulk. I don't think we're gonna get Joe Fixit, the Hulk in the pinstripe tuxedo, but there's opportunities here, and they one of the last time we saw Hulk was Deadpool and Wolverine when they teased him with the brown suit for Wolverine, and that was a nice Hulk. So maybe we'll get some World War Hulks as they move forward, and maybe it could a San Diego announcement later this year. Another news, George Miller is considered as a director possibly for Thor 5. We've talked about Thor 5 before, how it's kind of working in that, but he also might be a World War Hulk director. I think he'd be better with Thor 5 because he's interested in Thor after working with Chris Hemsworth in Furiosa. But George Miller, he's like 80s something, upper 80s, outside of making movies. He has previously shown interest in superhero properties before. People do not worry. There was a Justice League Mortal movie from the 2000s that got like to a week before filming, before they canceled it and went another route. So he has experience in superhero movies, or at least leading up to them, maybe not filming them. And I think getting him into a Marvel movie, Thor 5, especially overcorrecting Waititi stuff would be awesome, right? Get him down into like a nice journey.
This kind of feels like the Sam Raimi playbook a little bit, in a way, where like, oh yeah, we kind of need to repivot a little bit. Let's bring in one of these iconic directors that have a vision and a style to it. You can definitely feel Sam Raimi's vision in Doctor Strange too. So I'd love to see George Miller's like very kinetic style in a Thor movie. I know the Babe in the City movies aren't quite as kinetic, but I feel like when he approaches action, he wants it
like
intense,
Happy Feet.
So.
Yeah, he did really good on Happy Feet. No, I mean, I again, George Miller is kind of like the Avatar guy, James Cameron, right? Like you can't bet against him. It works. Like whatever he's doing, whether it be Mad Max or Happy Feet or Babe, it just works, and I think that's great. So I think Thor 5 would be great, especially if like they kind of take a faux Mad Max approach to it. Like Thor, he's not traveling through space. He's not talking to his hammer anymore. Like he's literally out there, like wastelands, like dealing with like maybe cosmic stuff. Maybe it could be a Battle World-esque style movie, right? Some of the Battle Worlds are pretty barren, so the Void kind of thing. So we'll see. But I think this would be a great grab for Marvel if they grab some people like you mentioned with direction rather than just someone to fill a seat. Moving on, Black Panther. This has been a lot of Black Panther rumors this week, and I want to go ahead and get these out of the way. Marvel is not recasting T'Challa. They're looking to cast up an aged son of T'Challa. I think his name's I can't say it. It's French. Toussaint or something like that. For the upcoming movies. He would be the Black Panther.
Did these people not watch the last Black Panther movie? There's no recasting happening here. The character's gone.
A lot of news articles jump to the multiverse as like, oh, he's a multiversal Black Panther, and I'm pretty sure even Marvel, despite their attempts at having variants, would be like, we're probably not going to do that. We're probably going to get an aged up version. We know Black Panther 3 is on the horizon. It's been confirmed by Marvel. Even Denzel Washington's that. I think they're going to go with the son of the Black Panther and kind of work that approach, right? Like just, hey, T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman, he has his legacy, he has his moments. We're moving forward, and we're going to work on the legacy instead. I think that's a good approach, right?
Yeah, it's a more compelling story, of like in the shadow of like your father's legacy, the father that you never got to meet, this country that you don't even know. Because I think if I recall correctly, his son is kind of living outside of Wakanda in seclusion. So there's so much you can do with that angle that's more compelling than just recasting, bringing in a multiversal character, and just plopping them in our proper universe,
Yeah, I don't think he was secluded. I think he's just brought up unknowing that he's like the son of T'Challa. That way nobody can find him. But I think he's like in a town or something, right? Wherever he's grown up. But right, exactly. And then also the whole idea of Black Panthers, right? The legacy of the Black Panther being able to talk to your ancestors is huge. So, we may not have Chadwick Boseman to talk to in that, but the idea of like, oh, I can reconnect with my ancestry I never grew up with. I think there's a huge opportunity for Black Panther 3. And obviously using this character in the Secret Wars movies, if they wanted to have an aged up version in the Secret Wars, they could bring him in for that as well. Moving on, Mutant Saga. We've heard the next version, the Cosmic Saga, Mutant Saga, whatever. The rumor is the Fantastic Four and the mutants from like the X-Men movies make the MCU their home post Secret Wars. So we will see a convergence of sorts for some of the mutants that we've seen. Obviously, I don't think Marvel would have taken the time to redesign Beast and Kelsey Grammer if they didn't plan on using that again later, right, from the Marvels. So it looks like they're going to be bringing some of these merging worlds together once the multiverse is over. And then the multiverse is done. Kind of how the Infinity Stones were also destroyed in Endgame, right? Like, we'll never be able to go back to a multiverse. We'll never be able to go back to the Infinity Stones. And just kind of keep the stories rolling forward. Which I think is a great idea.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting angle that I haven't thought about. If, like, theoretically these mutants exist. I know the most iconic part of a story, of a mutant story, is that they are, subjected, to different classes in the world that they're brought up in. But it would be kind of cool if like all these mutants come from a universe where they're accepted, and then they're brought into one universe where like the normal humans are like have never seen a mutant before, and then they reject them, so they have to kind of pivot with this whole new world that they're living in that doesn't accept them. That could be kind of a fun angle,
It'd be different, wouldn't it? Like, it wouldn't be the same X-Men movies we've been watching for the past 20 years. It would be absolutely a new take on it and a new problem to approach with them. So I think it's great. I think, the idea is, once the multiverse saga over, audiences obviously know what a multiverse is. It'll be done, and we can like literally focus on, to me, the Cosmic Saga is one of my favorite things about Marvel. So hopefully we can get to that point and do that. And then also have Mutant Saga. Like, obviously you can have that running parallel with it, because that's the earthly take, right? They are all on Earth and dealing with that kind of along the way. The X-Men movies have been talking about including Mr. Sinister as the villain in the MCU proper. And this was kind of because obviously Magneto has been used to death, literally and figuratively, in the previous Fox films. Like, how many times can you make Magneto the villain, right, of these movies? So I think if we finally get the Mr. Sinister live action that they were teasing for so long, that'd be great. We obviously saw X-Men 97. Sinister was a villain in that one, in that season as well. I think to me this is low hanging fruit, Mike. This is an easy approach for them to work towards that. What do you think?
Yeah, why not? He's already been proven, right? And maybe even introduced to new people. Like, I feel like X-Men 97 was big enough to bring in people to that specific franchise that didn't normally watch it. So I feel like Mr. Sinister kind of got an education with some people. So yeah, why not? I think he would look amazing in live action.
Right. And the idea of, like, again, we're talking about mutants living in a new world where they're rejected. We have someone who's trying to make the perfect mutant through genetics. Like, there's a bunch of story arcs you can go through here to tie together to tell a really compelling story that's different than what we've heard before in X-Men movies. The Nova series, Annihilus is rumored to be the villain of the series, and I've given you guys a kind of a rundown on who Annihilus is before. He is the leader of the Negative Zone, and he is trying to come into the main Marvel universe with his army, his Annihilation Wave, full of like bug creatures, and just destroy everything. And literally he wants to destroy the universe because the Negative Zone had nothing, and he wants it to be similar or nothing. So this could be
Is Annihilus is he a robot or is he a living thing?
He's a living thing. He looks like a robot, but he's a living thing. Like he's got like the mechanical cutouts, but he is, I guess a mutated organism from the negative zone who wasn't supposed to really live. So that's why he's got the sadistic nature of he wants everything to die around it. So Annihilation, we've heard is coming. We've been teased the cosmic side of Marvel. Nova could be one of the leading factors into that. One of the coolest parts of the Fantastic Four from the 2012s is actually Annihilus tries to come in through a portal into the Baxter building. And the only Fantastic Four member there to stop him is Johnny Storm, and he ends up like sacrificing himself on the other side to do that. And then Annihilation's bugs, or his creatures, like stitch him back together and keep bringing him back to life. So he has to like keep fighting in an arena, and like he keeps dying and being brought back to life. It's really kind of sadistic, but I'd be interested to see. I don't know if they'll do that with our current Fantastic Four, but Annihilation or Annihilus has ties to the Fantastic Four that we could approach on later as well if they wanted to. I could also see them doing like the new Fantastic Four in their universe, like doing like a touch on like a flat, like here's all the people we fought along the way, and doing like a nod to their universe's Annihilus kind of thing, how they beat him. So
yeah, maybe one of those things where when you watch there's like, I think there's been like Batman movies that have done this where you kind of go over his trophy case.
Yeah.
Like there's a giant penny, right? Isn't there like a giant penny in one of them?
Well, it's like it's the coin from like Two-Face or something like that. Yeah. And so like the eyes, like he has what's called the Cosmic Control Rod, and that could be his thing. Midnight Suns, we keep getting teased with this one as well. Is Mephisto and Lilith are rumored to be the villain of this upcoming film, and that kind of put me to thinking like I don't know where Lilith would be in the current Blade movie, simply because it got delayed and they're still working on it. So sounds like they're saving these two villains for the Midnight Suns, which is very similar to the video game that proved to be really popular last year, 2 years ago when it came out. So
man, if we had a nickel for every time we've talked about Midnight Suns or like a darker like creature side of the MCU, we'd probably be able to pay for our web hosting just with that.
Yeah, right. We could buy more of the mini Coke machines, get a whole fleet of them. So yeah, it's they keep wanting to do this. There's a want for it, right? Midnight Suns game, Werewolf by Night was popular. People want to see Blade, so it's I appreciate them taking their time to do it right, but at the same time I'm like, just stop teasing us and just do something. Like even if it's mid, I'll take it at this point because we got to get it off the notes. In news that might bring a lot of joy to other people's ears, Avengers versus X-Men will most likely be the next Avengers event movie after Secret Wars. So they're probably looking to capitalize on that comic book name that everybody loves, saying Avengers versus X-Men. But it will probably most likely not be based on the comic series, which included the Phoenix Force, because how many times have they done the Dark Phoenix saga in the Fox movies, Mike?
Yeah, even the Phoenix power in the comic books sometimes gets pretty annoying because it's like the biggest like Deus Ex Machina thing. It can do like literally anything. I saw a screen like some screenshots from maybe a recent comic book, I don't know, where like the Phoenix Force like destroyed like Gore the God Butcher just because it can, and so it just all depends on when the Force wants to fly by Earth and save everybody and then go back off into space.
Yeah, it's like we're writing a very powerful villain. How can we kill them or neutralize them? Bring in the Phoenix Force. We'll just do that real fast. So I think that's great. I think AVX it was a great book where the Phoenix Force was split into 5 fragments, and 5 X-Men each got a fragment, so they had like 1/5 of the Phoenix power, but they're still pretty powerful, and they were trying to like save the world and prove that mutants are bad. But then they started like Highlander rules. They would beat each other up. I don't think they killed each other. They beat each other up, and then like if you win over the other one, you get their Phoenix Force kind of thing. So they were trying to like merge it down to one. I don't think we're not going to get to that part very quickly, but I think if they wanted to include the Mutant Saga, which could be phase 7 or 8, and the Cosmic Saga together, they could tease the Phoenix Force. But like I hate the reliance on it, right? It seems to be relied on way too frequently and not. in a
Yeah,
good
I
way.
mean, I don't think you even need the Phoenix Force to be the wedge in between Avengers and X-Men. I don't think it's hard to come up with a narrative where they would be at odds. You have these two different powerhouse superhero teams. And if I recall correctly, like Cyclops, even in the comic book, says something along the lines of like, you guys get to be the heroes, whereas like we're still looked down on because we're different and not human, but we still like save people.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of one of the crux of like the butting of heads. So like that's it. That's what you got there. You know, put some sort of catastrophic event for Earth in between them, and then you already have like your sparks going. I mean, that's kind of what they did with Civil War. On the film side.
I was gonna say you could do it like as kind of a Civil War. One of the other things about AVX was there was the first mutant born after Wanda was Hope Summers. She's not technically a Summers kid. I think she just took the name. But she was the first mutant born after that. And the mutants were trying to, like, you're coming to us. But she was like, actually, I don't like what you're doing. I want to go with the Avengers. And that caused a conflict, right? So they could be like, what do we do? You know, not as simple as Civil War, like government regulation, but like, you know, how do we, if it's a mutant problem, do the Avengers get involved or vice versa, right? Do the mutants handle their own problems? So a lot of opportunities. I think it's a great idea. I just know they're just using the name rather than the story. Moving on, Spider-Man 4. This one was probably like the weirdest rumor this week for me. And the rumor is that the plan for Spider-Man 4, and it might still be because we technically have no confirmed facts on Spider-Man 4, is that Spider-Man and the Punisher, John Bernthal, take on the Hulk in a street level adventure. And one of the scoopers, who's tend to be right, I think he's like when you have to pay like Patreon, he has a Patreon stuff, says it passes his smell test on the Hulk involvement for Spider-Man 4. And this could possibly be a cataclysm or what's it called, a catalyst for World War Hulk. If true, like if the Hulk smashed up New York, like a bad Hulk rather than a good Hulk, and Spider-Man has to get involved.
I mean, honestly, I love this story idea. I think it's super interesting and clever. You have a superpowered character like Spider-Man, and then an unsuperpowered character like the Punisher. Like, add their powers together, you still can't defeat the Hulk. So I love the idea of they have to get clever. They have to think, how are we going to do this? And then, they're two characters that are at odds to begin with. Like in the comic books, one of the most iconic comic book covers is the Punisher trying to kill Spider-Man. Yeah. So I would think that's maybe even how the story gets kicked off, is the Punisher's out there to kill Spidey. Yeah. And then they start working together. I could see. I think if you could get a good screenplay where somebody comes up with a really clever way to stop the Hulk in the third act with these two characters, I would be really excited for it.
Yeah, I think it is the most unorthodox, unpredictable story, and I think to me that makes me excited. But I'm going to go ahead and put this big asterisk on everything Spider-Man related, because most likely none of these Spider-Man MCU rumors are true until we get official announcement, because there's so many being tossed around. But I like this one the most. It's the most, like, rather than him. There was one out there that's like, well, they're going to do the Spider-Man One More Day thing where he, like, goes to Mephisto. Is like, I want people to remember me again. So he goes to make a deal with the devil so they'll remember him, but he has to give up something. This I'm like, we haven't even seen the Spider-Man do anything yet. So what's he got to give up, right, along the way? So I think this would be great. Also, one of the most iconic comic pages, which I thought you were actually going to say, is from Civil War, where the Punisher brings Spider-Man in, like, who's been beat up and like bloodied, into the underground room with like Captain America and stuff. So like they have a history together, like you said, not just him hunting Spider-Man, but also saving Spider-Man back during the Civil War comic book. So a lot of interesting stuff they could take from that. Lastly, the last bit of Sony news we have here today is that going forward, Sony will focus on Spider-Man variants rather than villains, and leaving Spider-Man and Miles live action to live in the MCU. Leave them alone. Let Kevin Feige and team bring in the money, and they're going to focus on variants, so stories can be standalone in nature and feature the villains they tried to make movies from. So an example, if instead of making a Kraven movie, they would have, I'm sure, some sort of Spider-Man versus Kraven movie, not our Spider-Man, but a variant version.
Like a Silk versus Craven or something like that.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or maybe it's like a Spider-Punk set universe where like the Craven version in Spider-Punk universe versus Spider-Punk, right? Like they could go down those roads. 2099, like Spider-Verse films are standalone Spider-Man movies that focus on Spider-Man. The Noir show also shows they're kind of taking that approach to some of their licensing out there. So if they're gonna focus on Spider-Man, this is probably the better approach than Madam Web and Craven going forward, right? The current Sony or Columbia Studios president is leaving. He was scheduled to leave anyway. Somebody else, you mentioned it was someone who was in charge of Spider-Man movies, including the MCU. I'm not going to fault him. He did the Spum ones and the Marvel ones. He has also left the company, so it sounds like they're doing a shuffling over there and maybe trying a different approach in the future for these. I don't think we'll see any of these until at least 26, 27, Mike, along the way, by the way. I don't think we're not going to see anything for a hot minute. All right. Well, that is the show. We got to get out of here, Mike. Maybe hopefully you guys are still doing okay over there. And like I said, the weather is tempered down and everyone can be safe and all that fun stuff. But people will know what you're doing, where they can find you. Maybe you put your Coke machine online somewhere. I don't know. Where can they find all that good stuff at?
Well, if they want to find the fun stuff that I'm putting out there in the world, you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com and liferewardsrisk.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
Find me on Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN, or Video Game Systems of the same name. Marvel Rivals just launched their new season, which is Fantastic Four focus. So Mr. Fantastic and Susan Storm are out now. And Dracula is the main villain of the season, interestingly enough. He's not out yet, so we'll see that. But I've been playing that. Or, like I said, Video Game Systems, all the fun stuff. If people want to know about the show where they can come and listen to us every week and listen to all the 10 years of historical content, where can they get all the goodies at?
Yeah, all you got to do is head on over to superheroslate.com. You can find us on Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to podcasts. You can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Let us know what you're excited for this year. What's your main go-to big game snack coming up here in a couple weeks? Because we're going to have, I'm pretty sure, a fun trailer segment after the big game wraps up. I don't know why I keep saying big game. We can say Super Bowl. That's like a misnomer. Like, they're not going to sue me for saying the Super Bowl. Right. But we love our super fans, too. So if you want to be a super fan of Superhero Slate, all you have to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we'll be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.